you have Google, you have YouTube, you have ChatGPT. But majority of times with most people, it's like it's not information that stops them. It's them needing someone to hold them accountable or someone telling them, hey, do this, and this is what is going to come out of it.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Richer Geek Podcast. Today we have Daanish Azim, and it's a little bit of a story after losing everything in 2022. He took a bet on one Airbnb unit. No savings, no experience, nothing to lose. Within months, it was generating considerable income. Fast forward, he now manages 18 plus units, 60,000 a month, works less than 10 hours a week, all without owning a single property. So we're going to figure out how he does it. And I know the why is less hours working, more money in the bank. How you doing, Daanish?
I'm doing amazing, man. Doing good.
So I'd like to start off all the podcasts. Give us a little bit about yourself and how you made that decision for that one Airbnb.
Yeah, so quick backstory about myself. I mean, I'm 28 years old now, but I started my entrepreneurship business journey when I was 18, 19 years old, reselling phones. Then I got into, if some people are familiar with, like the network marketing MLM industry. Then I
Mhm.
got very deep into the crypto industry in 2021. 2022, I ended up losing pretty much everything I had through some bad situations that occurred. And then I got into the life insurance industry. But while I was doing life insurance, I was making 5, 10, even 20K months doing sales in the life insurance space. But I kind of felt like a slave. I was working it literally from wake up at 8 a.m., dialing older people, working till 6, 7, 8 p.m. almost every single day for
Mhm.
5 to 6 days a week. And the money was there. It's not like the money was bad. I just got tired of it. Felt like very slavish to me personally, and I didn't have the freedom.
Mhm.
And that's when I was like looking for different businesses. And that's when I randomly came across a YouTube video with which most people know, Grant Cardone, but he was interviewing a guy named Brian Page at that point.
Mhm.
And this is probably in 2022. And he was talking about Airbnb arbitrage, which I had no idea what that was. But he was like, hey, you can do this business without having to own properties. You don't need
Yep.
20,000, 50,000. Because when I thought about real estate 3, 4 years ago, I used to think that you need 50, $100,000 to do it. So I never entertained real estate as a business to do back then. But when he
Yeah.
explained the business model, hey, you can actually do these properties without owning it, sublease it, and make 1,000 to 3,000 profit per property.
Mhm.
I got very intrigued. Just like any other person, I started watching more YouTube videos. I eventually bought different courses, coaching programs, and then I eventually got my first deal probably about 5 to 6 months after I was learning about the business model. And that was in Houston, Texas, while I was sitting in Chicago, Illinois.
Mhm.
And that first property made me money, but I wouldn't say it made me profitable.
Mhm.
But it gave me a taste of what Airbnb arbitrage was, which is not
Yep.
having to buy properties, being able to make some money, do it virtually, and you're not spending a lot of time doing it. So from there, eventually I kind of built up the business. Short story, 3 years later, right now I'm at 20 properties now doing about 80, 90,000 a month
Mhm.
on Airbnb's platform.
So, it's kind of funny when we talk about Airbnb arbitrage because I'm on the other side of it and owning a lot of multifamily and other houses. And it's because of, and we'll talk about what the arbitrage is, but I started noticing people doing that. And it's not necessarily something you have to be careful, don't you? With the owners. And
Hmm.
I actually incorporated addendums in my leases that you were
Hmm.
not allowed to do that. But a lot of people don't know about it. And I don't know if it's a control thing. It's like I want to know who's in my properties.
Hmm.
I don't want people to co-lease them or arbitrage them out. But for those people that don't know what arbitrage is, what exactly are you doing? I know what you're doing, but
Yep.
tell the audience what you're doing in order to arbitrage Airbnbs.
Yeah, so basically, in the simplest form, what I like to tell people Airbnb arbitrage is basically instead of you buying properties, you're renting out a property from a property owner. You're signing a regular lease like a normal tenant would do for maybe 1 year, 2 years, but then you're getting permission from that property owner, or if it's a building apartment, and
Mhm.
you're getting their permission to basically sublease the property and then be able to list that property as a short-term rental on different platforms like the Airbnbs, the VRBO, Booking.com. And then let's just say, like, simplest example, you get a property in Phoenix, Arizona, where it's a two bathroom, and your rent's 2,000, but you list it on Airbnb. Let's say in the month of July, you would make $4,000 in revenue in bookings. You subtract it from your rent and expenses, which is typically your utilities, rent, and then your cleaning fees that you pay your cleaner. Let's say for the month it was 2,500. So you subtract the 4,000 from the 2,500, you'd be making about $1,500 in net profit. And the best part is, like, you can automate and systemize and delegate majority of the business if you do it correctly.
Yeah, and it's, I like the fact that you give at the very beginning, they weren't letting the property owners know that they
Mm-hmm.
are doing it. And then I'd start getting complaints just like going, why is there four people partying in this apartment complex? And I'm like going, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you do this, it is important that look at the lease addendums, look
Mm-hmm.
at the leases, look at the rental contracts to make sure you can do this. It is a extremely easy way to do the Airbnb. Why, pay $1 million? Why pay $600,000 for a property when you can, like you said, $2,000 a month lease, and most people can make 4 or 5,000 a month,
Mm-hmm.
Airbnb it, as long as it's up and coming. So tell us, how do you look at? It might be easy to do the arbitrage. You get the owner's permission. They probably don't know. Like with me owning multifamily, I don't know what the Airbnb rules are because I don't look paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
How are the different city regulations and neighborhood regulations affecting you at all with their crackdown on Airbnb?
Yeah, so every market is going to have different regulation rules. And that's very important. Like, before you get into a market and you sign a lease with the property owner, number one, we try to look for properties that don't have any HOA, number one. Number two, you can do a simple Google research about, let's say, if I want to type in for Phoenix, I'm getting a property. I would literally just go on Google, type in city ordinance rules for short-term rentals in the city of Phoenix, Arizona. And then on the website, you can kind of find out, okay, what are the regulation rules? Can you do short-term rentals? Do you have to have a permit in order to do it?
Yep.
Do you have to do minimum at least 30-day stays? So that's where you can kind of get that information and education.
Mhm.
And then the biggest thing is, like, I tell most people, is like, when you're doing this kind of business, it's easy, but you have to do it correctly, meaning you have to have good teams in place. You have to have decently strict rules so you're not getting complaints from neighbors and you're not getting complaints from your property owners or the landlords,
Mhm.
in order to make the business actually work for both the parties. Because the way I like to tell my property owners or landlords is, like, at the end of this is a partnership, which property owners usually want three things. They want rent paid on time, they want the least headache possible, and they just want to make sure what you're doing is legal. If
Mhm.
those three things are typically taken care of, they'll work with you.
Mhm.
So you, as like me approaching it from doing arbitrage, I have to let and communicate these things effectively to the property owner and kind of build that little bit of rapport and trust for
Mhm.
them to be like, okay, I am looking to do this. And the biggest thing is going to property owners that maybe they do have a property sitting on the market that they haven't been able to find a renter.
Mhm.
It's a little bit easier to convince them compared to if a property owner just lists their property for the last 3 days. They're not going to entertain your offer too well unless you have, like, built up trust with them in the
Mhm.
past.
How do you handle the sales tax on your end? Um, the want like property addresses, they want, how does that work? I know with regular rentals, I have the LLC, I have the property address, and then it's the rental, pay, 5% of the rental income or whatever it is in the rental sales tax. How does that work with arbitrage?
So with, like, Airbnb, they have, so every time a guest books, there's something called I think it's hotel occupancy taxes that they
Yep.
pay, but usually it falls on the guest. So you can do it inside of the Airbnb app, where if you don't want the guest paying it, then you're basically liable for paying that. But 90, I would say 95, 99% of Airbnb hosts, usually it's just the guest that's paying that stuff, which is the occupancy taxes. And then there's hotel occupancy taxes, which, if a city requires you to get a permit, and again, it's different in different cities, But there's something called the HOT, which is the hotel occupancy taxes, which you do have to pay a percentage of your revenue per month to the city, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering because if you don't own the property, so I can see if it's done through the platform, it'd be
Yep, it's done through the platform.
a lot easier.
Usually the guests are paying the occupancy taxes.
Mhm. So where do you see, well, let's jump into, so you're teaching people now how to do this.
Correct.
What is your website? How can they get in touch with you? What do they find on the website?
Yeah, so basically on my website, it's called bnbcashflowsystem.com. And basically on the website, I've created a little free training. It's like a 5 to 10 minute video that kind of has me break down the training and stuff,
Mhm.
like about what is Airbnb arbitrage, how does it work. And then I've also in my website shown a bunch of case studies of other like students that we've helped out in the past, like get their first property. I've helped multiple people make over 10K a month doing Airbnb arbitrage. So just kind of showcasing people like, hey, this is not only something that one person can do as long as you have like a good blueprint. And sometimes coaching can help some people. Sometimes you don't need coaching. It just depends. I always tell people like it depends what kind of learner you are. Are you someone that's like you could go watch the information and you're willing to go through trial and error, or are you someone that's like, hey, I'd rather find someone that already has results in something and just shortcut my process by paying for coaching or mentorship. So that's always I feel like I've always told people. For me, it's always been I'd rather pay someone who already has results and not have to go through like trial and error and rather pay someone than go on YouTube and Google because nowadays information is always out there. Like if someone wanted to really learn how to do Airbnb or real estate or
Sure.
any kind of business, they can get the information. You have Google, you have YouTube, you have Chat GPT. But majority of times with most people, it's like it's not information that stops them. It's them needing someone to hold them accountable or them someone telling them, hey, do this, and this is what is going to come out of it.
Yeah, a lot of people need more of a checklist or more of a whole, hand
Yep.
helping,
Like a blueprint
holding,
proper.
and that's fine. People learn in different ways.
Yep.
Um, what are most of your, so you also have to have cash to furnish these things, right? Or do you
Correct.
try to find furnished apartments?
You could find furnished apartments or homes, but 90% of the time, if you're finding stuff like that and it's from the previous homeowner,
Mhm.
the furniture is probably not good. It's not furnished well. It's not staged well, which our Airbnb nowadays in 2025, it doesn't work that way no more. Like you have to have professional furniture, staging, you have to have professional pictures. You have to know how to price your property correctly. Where maybe in 2020, 2021, you could take an iPhone, snap some photos, your furniture and staging does not have to look perfect, and your property will get booked out. 2025, it won't really work.
Yeah,
So, yes, you need money for furnishing, but I tell most people, especially people I've taught, is that money doesn't need to be your money, meaning you can leverage OPM other people's money. Usually nowadays is if you have a 680 plus credit score, you get an LLC created and your credit profile is pretty solid, your personal profile, you can go apply for these 0% business cards. Like you have the Chase Business Income Limited, you have the Amex 0% credit cards, a bunch of these different banks that will offer you 0% credit cards for 9 months, 12 months, even some that go up to like 15 months. Now, let's say you get approved for 10K or 20K limit, which I've seen a bunch of people
Mhm.
that's occurred. Now you can use that money to buy your furniture from websites like Amazon, Wayfair, Walmart, and now you're not having to use your personal capital
Mhm.
if your situation is not there. Because majority of people I tell is like depends on someone's situation, but it's easier to get a 20K 0% card than it is to save $20,000 for most people.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're putting it on. You're not doing cash advances. You're just putting the furniture. You're just buying.
Yeah, you just buy the furniture because when you're buying furniture, especially now, like 90% of the furniture that I buy for my Airbnb properties is usually through Amazon.
Sure,
You can find everything on Amazon,
that's
realistically.
the entire. Basically, it's. Oh my God, I'm not even going to tell you how many packages we get every day from
Yeah.
Amazon's crazy.
And pretty good prices. Like I just furnished a 5 bed, 2 bath. We just launched one in Fort Lauderdale, and we furnished it decently. We didn't go super high end, but we furnished it for like our furniture itself only costs about $9,000 to $10,000 on a 5 bed, 2 bath. So you can do it pretty realistically, where it's like I tell most people you don't need to get the highest end mattress or the highest end
Yeah.
beds. You just need to get stuff that looks decent, that's going to do the job. And you can furnish a 2 bedroom for 5,000, 6,000. You can furnish a 4 or 5 bedroom sometimes for 10 to 12,000.
Yeah. Perfect. Is there anything, before we let you go, is there anything that you wanted to hit on within, whether it's your training course or arbitrage in general, that I haven't asked you that you'd like to tell our listeners?
Not much. I would just say any business that someone's looking to get into, like from my experience, I've done different businesses. I'm pretty sure, you've had experience in doing so many different things. And I'm assuming you'd kind of agree is like I would tell most people that are maybe listening to this or, whatever their situation might be, is kind of finding one thing you want to do and then pursuing that and kind of going all in on it, where it's just like,
Mhm.
hey, let me try arbitrage, then also let me try e-commerce at the same time, and then try something else. So my biggest advice for most people is like find something, ideally find someone that can actually help you do it, whether it's myself, someone else if you're trying to get into Airbnb, and then just stick through that for at least 1 year and like actually test it out. Where it's just like, hey, let me try something for a month or 2 months and then pivot to something different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Find your niche, stick to it,
Yep.
find your lane. How can people get a hold of you outside of your website?
Yeah, so my main place that I'm the most active on is my Instagram, which is basically my last name, which is Azim, and then my first name Daanish, so Azim Danish. And then I have quite a bit of videos, like longer form on my YouTube as well, which is just my first name Danish and last name Azim. So those are the two main stuff.
Perfect. Danish, thank you so much for coming on the Richer Geek Podcast. Enjoy the beach, enjoy Fort Lauderdale, and we'll see you down the road. Take
I
care.
appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.